Hey, what's up everybody? This is Subterfuge501 and today I want to do an overview of the Rogue class in Diablo 4. Now I think the Rogue of Diablo 4 is going to follow a more old school rogue archetype because a lot of the more modern renditions of rogues usually have them being completely focused on being a melee class, usually having a lot of CC, usually having a lot of movement abilities while also being able to stealth. But the Rogue in Diablo 4 is actually going to be ranged and melee, which is more of an old school type of rogue. Because a rogue is actually going to be able to equip one ranged weapon, for instance a bow, and then they're also going to have a main hand and offhand slot to be able to use dual wielded melee weapons as well. So instead of just being completely focused on melee, they're also going to have a ranged weapon, so you could potentially make a rogue build that has ranged abilities and melee abilities that synergize with each other. So that brings us to the Rogue's unique class mechanic, which seems a little bit more involved to actually unlock the system compared to many of the other classes. Because the Rogue is going to have 3 different systems that they get to choose between for their unique class mechanic. And the first one you're going to be unlocking at level 15, the second one is going to be unlocked at level 20, and the third one is going to be unlocked at level 30. And when this system was first revealed, it was said that you would have to do a quest line with different groups of rogues in the open world. So one region would have this faction of rogues you'd have to go do this quest line for to unlock one of these systems, and another region would have a completely different group of rogues. And you can have one of these different systems active at one time, but you're able to very freely change them outside of combat. And these systems actually have changed pretty significantly since they were first revealed a couple years ago. And the first one you get, which is at level 15, is called combo points. Now these are pretty simple if you've ever played any other rogues, especially say a rogue in World of Warcraft. So when you have the combo point system activated, your basic skills will now generate combo points, and these also generate the combo points on your character, not on a specific target. So it essentially adds you another resource to manage, and these go up to 3 combo points. And you use these combo points by using a core skill. And these are just the different categories of abilities the rogue has, and we'll go over all those different categories in this video as well. But you gain additional effects when using a core ability with combo points, and the effect gets stronger the more combo points you have. So 1 to 3 combo points, and whatever new effect that core ability gets stronger with each combo point. So for instance, for the ability Barrage, if you use it with combo points, it gets a 20 to 60% damage increase, and it increases the amount of arrows fired up to 6 to 8. And we'll go over that base ability once we get to those as well. But these combo points are just massively buffing up one of your core skills. And then you unlock another one of the unique class mechanics at level 20 called Inner Sight. Now once you have this active, enemies in combat will randomly have an icon over their head. And if I'm not mistaken, only one enemy is going to have this over their head. When it was first revealed, it would be a few enemies, but it seems to only be one now. And if that enemy doesn't die within 10 seconds, the mark will change. But dealing damage to a marked enemy fills up an additional resource bar, which is your Inner Sight gauge. Now, once this Inner Sight gauge is filled up, you will then have unlimited energy, which is the rogue's main resource, for 4 seconds. And higher damaging attacks fill up the bar more quickly. But this is also going to be a higher skill class mechanic because you're going to have to be constantly changing targets if you want to keep filling up your gauge to keep getting unlimited energy. Now the third unique rogue mechanic is called Preparation, and it seems to have been completely changed from the one that was shown off a few years ago, but we don't actually have a lot more information on it because a lot of the more up-to-date information comes from a content creator and news outlet playtest, and they weren't able to get high enough level to be able to test Preparation. But there is an achievement called Rogue Preparation, and to unlock this achievement, you have to use your ultimate 3 times in 60 seconds as a rogue. So people are thinking Preparation is in some way tied to cooldown resets. There's actually an ability in World of Warcraft as well that's called Preparation that resets a lot of your more utility-based abilities, but it's sounding like this system is going to have something to do with resetting cooldowns or lowering cooldowns with some new gameplay mechanic. Now, like the other classes in Diablo 4, all of the rogue skills are going to be in one of 6 different categories. Now, all skills but the ultimate category can be used in any amount you want. So if you want to use all basic skills, you could do that. If you want to use 4 core skills and 2 basic skills, you could do that. So these are essentially just categories to help you get a good understanding of what these skills are going to do. And then certain categories are also going to have other effects that play into them. Example being the combo system we went over, where basic skills give you combo points and core skills spend the combo points. So first we have basic skills, and these are going to play basically the same role as every other class. They're a skill that's going to be completely spammable. They're not going to take any resource to use, but that means they're generally going to be doing less damage. And a lot of these skills for the rogue have something else implemented with them. So for instance, for puncture, this skill has you throw blades at a short distance, dealing some small amount of damage, and every third cast slows enemies for 2 seconds, and critical strikes with this will always slow. And a lot of the other basic skills have some other effect on them, whether it be a slow or some other crowd control effect. And next up, we have core skills. And like a lot of the other classes in Diablo 4, core skills are going to be some of your most important skills. They're going to be abilities that you're going to much more likely be creating builds around. And for the rogue, these are going to cost energy to use, which is your main resource, but they're going to be doing a lot more damage. And like I already mentioned, they're going to play into the combo point specialization, where core skills are going to be using the combo points that basic skills generate to make your core skills much stronger. And core skills are also generally going to have more legendary effects that play into them. So for instance, we have Barrage. Unleash a barrage of 5 arrows that expand outwards, with each one of them dealing damage. Each arrow has a 20% chance to ricochet off of an enemy up to 1 time, and ricochets deal 40% of the arrow's base damage. But then if you're using the combo point system, you can massively increase the effects of this ability. So if you have 1 combo point, it's going to increase the damage by 44%, 2 combo points, it increases it by 52%, and 3 combo points, it increases it by 59%. So that's just increasing the base damage of the skill, but then you're also going to be firing 6, 7, or 8 total arrows up from 5. So it seems to be linear scaling when using combo points, at least for Barrage, and it's seeming like a lot of the other core skills work in a similar way when it comes to using up combo points. And next up, we have agility skills. Now this category is going to mainly be focused on utility, with a pretty big focus on movement skills, because most, if not all, of the agility skills are also going to have some movement element in them, even if they do something else on top of that movement. So for instance, we have dash. You dash forward and slash enemies for some amount of damage. It has 2 charges and a 10-second cooldown. So just a dash through enemies, going to be good on movement, going to be able to do some additional damage. And since you're moving through targets, it's also going to be good for getting out of situations where maybe you're surrounded and can't physically move away from different enemies. Then we also have another example of caltrops. You leap backwards and throw caltrops on the ground that will deal damage and slow enemies. So even though this ability is mainly focused on putting these traps on the ground to slow and damage enemies, there's still a movement element in this ability. And next up, we have Subterfuge Skills. And all these skills are either going to be giving you an offensive or defensive effect, and are all going to play very closely into an archetypical rogue. So first off, we have Smoke Grenade with a 15-second cooldown. Throw a smoky concoction at enemies that dazes them for 4 seconds. But then you also have something like Concealment, 20-second cooldown, Vanish from sight, gaining stealth for 4 seconds. During Concealment, you additionally become unstoppable, you gain 25% movement speed, and can move through enemies freely. But using a skill will break Concealment. And a rogue would not be a rogue without some type of a vanish ability that makes you stealth and allows you to very freely move around, but also when using a skill will break that stealth. And next up, we have Imbuement Skills. And this is one of the parts of rogues that the developers specifically wanted to reveal when they revealed the rogue a few years ago at one of the BlizzCons. And essentially what these are imbuements to specific skills that will add an additional element to that skill that can also play off what that element normally does. And you can't use these imbuements on all skills. Now I know all the core skills are imbuable skills, but I'm not sure if any other categories of skills can also be imbued. But for instance, we have poison imbuement. Imbue your weapons with lethal poison. Your next 2 imbuable skills deal poison damage and apply a massive poison dot over the next 5 seconds. So this will allow any of your skills that are imbuable to now also have a poison effect on them. And then we also have cold imbuement, which you imbue your weapons with frigid energies. Your next 2 imbuable skills deal cold damage and chill enemies up to 50%. Cold imbue skills deal 15% increased damage to crowd controlled enemies. And it was also explained that using cold imbuement would also be able to fully freeze enemies, because this is also a mechanic just of cold effects in the game, because something like the sorceress who's using cold skills can keep freezing enemies with cold element until they're completely frozen. So it ramps up from just being a slow into being a full stun. And it's seeming like any elemental imbuement you use will also follow that element's specific effects. And finally, we have ultimate skills. Now you're only able to use one ultimate at a time. But unlike Diablo 3, Diablo 4 seems to have much less opportunity to reduce the cooldowns of ultimate skills at a baseline. Now, like we already went over with preparation, it's seeming like the rogue is going to be the one class that has additional ways to reduce or reset ultimate skills. So it seems like there's the possibility that rogues are going to be able to use ultimates a lot more than other classes. And one of the examples of this is Shadow Clone. This has a 60-second cooldown. Your shadow mimics your actions for 15 seconds. The shadow deals 60% of your damage. So you're just able to summon a Shadow Clone that will do everything you're doing, but will only deal 60% of the damage you're doing. But that's still completely massive, and there can be other ways to cause abilities like this to do even more damage because they're copying everything you're doing. And these ultimate abilities for every class are incredibly strong, but it's seeming like with the rogue, since one of the rogue's unique class mechanics is going to play into being able to use your skills, your ultimate skills more frequently, that the rogue's ultimates may be a little bit weaker than other classes, meaning that certain rogue builds may not use ultimates, but builds that are using preparation are probably going to have more reliance on their ultimate skill, since they can in some way reduce the cooldown. But that's pretty much all the information I wanted to go over for an overview for the Rogue. And I'm a big fan of the Rogue for Diablo 4, having a more old school kind of philosophy of being a stealthy, fast moving melee character that also has ranged abilities and can change between them on the fly, instead of just being a melee character that doesn't have any reliance on ranged abilities. I think having a build that's going to integrate the two is going to make for a very fluid and fun playstyle. And I think there's still going to be a lot of that rogue aesthetic for the rogue in Diablo 4. You're still going to be able to stealth. You're still going to have big movement abilities that allow you to very quickly move around the map. You're still going to have imbuements that kind of replace rogue poisons that are really common in other rogue classes from other games. So if you're a fan of this type of playstyle, I think the rogue is going to give you exactly what you're looking for. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the rogue in Diablo 4. And thanks for watching.